It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Well, good afternoon, and it's hump day Wednesday, and welcome back to the 10 Commandments of Leadership. And today's episode is titled From Goat to Goat. From Goat to Goat, the greatest coach player in NBA history just confirmed who was the greatest all-around player in NBA history. Who was the greatest? Let me give you some background. On yesterday, August 26th, the greatest coach player in NBA history, Phil Jackson, dropped a bombshell in Yahoo Sports. He said that Scottie Pippen, not Michael Jordan, was the greatest all-around player in NBA history. Now, when Phil Jackson speaks, people stop and listen. But when I heard that, I just smiled. Because it confirmed something that I had written and published 3 years ago in my fourth Amazon best-selling book, Where Jump Shots Meet Jesus. Where Jump Shots Meet Jesus. In that book, I made a claim that raised a lot of eyebrows. I argued, first of all, that NBA championship dynasties aren't built by the loudest and flashiest and most dominant superstars. Instead, they're built by what I call silver medal leaders, servant leaders who put their team above themselves. They're built by silver medal leaders, servant leaders who put their team above themselves. They're the ones that hold dynasties together, help to create them and hold them together. And my example for the 1990 Chicago Bulls wasn't Michael Jordan, it was Scottie Pippen. Let's remember the facts. When Jordan arrived in the NBA in 1984, the Bulls were exciting, but they were losing. They couldn't even get out of the first round of the playoffs. Then enter Scottie Pippen in 1987. With his arrival, the Chicago Bulls finally broke through. Together, Jordan and Pippen won 6 championships in the 1990s. And even Michael Jordan himself had to say it plainly in ESPN's The Last Dance documentary in 2020. And he said, quote, "Whenever they speak Michael Jordan, they should also speak Scottie Pippen. Everybody says I won these championships, but I didn't win them without Scottie. He was my greatest teammate." Now, that's not me talking. That's not even Phil Jackson talking. That's Jordan himself admitting the dynasty was impossible without Pippen. Now, fast forward to this week. Phil Jackson, the man with 13 championship rings as a coach and a player, doubled down. He called Scottie the greatest all-around player in NBA history. Not Jordan, not Kobe, not LeBron, Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen. Why? Because Pippen could and did do everything. He scored, he defended, he rebounded, he facilitated, he adapted. But most importantly, and this is where leadership lessons come in, Scottie stepped up when it was needed, and he stepped back when the moment required it. That's servant leadership, purely and simply. That's silver medal leadership. Do you remember when Michael Jordan retired for the first time in 1993? Everyone felt that the Bulls were going to just collapse. Instead, Pippen stepped into that number one role. He finished third in MVP, most valuable player voting in the NBA that year, carried the Bulls to 55 wins, and nearly reached the Eastern Conference Finals. But what happened when Jordan returned? Scottie, who had stepped up into that number one role, now stepped back, saying in effect what John the Baptist said about Jesus: he must increase and I must decrease. He must increase and I must decrease. How many leaders today have the humility to do that? And here's another layer. Scottie famously signed a contract that was way below his market value early in his career. People criticized him for it, but Scottie explained why. You see, his father, Preston, was paralyzed, and his brother, Ronnie, was wheelchair bound, and he wanted financial security for his family immediately, not gambling on a bigger future deal. That's servant leadership in its purest form. He put his family first. Therefore, in my book, I compared Scottie Pippen to Noah of Noah's Ark fame. As you remember the biblical narrative, Noah preached for 120 years, but he only saved 8 people. But they were the most important people. Noah saved his family. Scottie, by choosing stability over spotlight, secured his family's survival. Now, here's a lesson for all of us. Michael had the fame. Michael Jordan had the scoring titles. But without Scottie Pippen's humility, versatility, and service, the Bulls would not have been a dynasty. They would not have won 1 championship, but instead, they won 6. Dynasties in sports and business and in ministry aren't built by egoholism, but by ego management, by servant leaders who know when to shine and when to step back. Jesus himself said it best: I came not to be served, but to serve. Scottie Pippen lived that principle on and off the basketball court. So let me ask you, who is the Scottie Pippen in your life? In your organization, who's the servant leader quietly holding things together? And maybe even more importantly, are you willing to be that person? Are you willing to be that Scottie Pippen in your organization? Phil Jackson confirmed it this week. I wrote about it years ago, but the truth is timeless. The greatest leaders are often the ones who serve the most. Thanks for listening. I'm Tim Alton. I'm a leadership strategist. I'm a recovering egoholic, and I'm reminding you of one thing particular in this episode. Lead with silver, not with gold, because silver reflects, and reflections build dynasties. Lead with silver, not gold, because silver reflects, and reflections build dynasty. I hope that you've enjoyed this departure from what we usually do, but Scottie Pippen stands as a sterling example of servant leadership. And the piece in Yahoo Sports yesterday, anchored by his former coach, brought it out. He was the greatest all-around player in NBA history. He served his team. He served the NBA. Thanks for listening. And if what I've said to you has been inspiring, encouraging, informational, or inspirational, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow on the 10 Commandments of Leadership.